What up? How's everybody doing tonight? I had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we got her going. Um, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Saturday Night Live with me, your host, Phil Tyler. This is Against the Odds, and we are live again on Saturday night. It's a little after 8 p.m. Hope you guys are having a great night. First of all, I want to thank you guys all. We hit 2,300 likes on Facebook. Huge shout out. Huge shout out to all you guys that support our page, that like our page, and share our page. We appreciate all your support. We are reaching people, for real people. So tonight, we have a very special guest who is with us. Tiffany. Tiffany will be sharing her experience, her strength, and her hope with us tonight. I am so glad that you guys all tuned in. I'm going to bring Tiffany. Tiffany's sitting backstage right now. I'm going to bring her on, and we're going to get the show going. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey,
How's it going?
good. How are you?
Good. So, everyone, this is Tiffany. This is our Saturday Night Live speaker. And I am so glad that you guys are all here. If you're just tuning in, I am your host, Phil Tyler, and this is Against the Odds on Saturday Night Live. We have a very special guest tonight. She is a personal friend of mine in recovery, and she has an incredible story of hope. Um, her story of hope. I hope you guys will share this on your page so we can reach people that might not have any hope tonight because we are going to be sharing some hope and inspiration. So, without further ado, I'm going to kick it off to Tiffany and let her share her story. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thanks, Phil. I'm Tiffany. I know Phil from Hastings. I grew up in a single family home my entire life. I have my mom, who is in law enforcement, kind of plays a big role within my story. I'm the youngest of three girls. I have two older sisters, and then my dad, who lives in the cities also. But growing up in law enforcement, I was always surrounded by police officers, and I always thought that I had to do right, and it kind of made me the rebellious child that I ended up being. Just I was being defiant. When I was 10 years old, in the city that I used to live in, I was hit by a car. And from that car accident, I received a traumatic brain injury. It definitely put a halt and a lot of barriers in my life growing up from that traumatic brain injury, not understanding things, having to take more time at school and stuff. I would say that was probably the start of my struggles. I felt behind when it came to school and to other kids from that accident. My first time using then, I was 11 years old, so it was about a year and a half after my accident. Definitely not something that I carry with pride. There were just doors that were open in my life that shouldn't have been open at that time. They say that weed is a gateway drug, and I agree 100%. That was my first drug that I used. From there, I enjoyed the high and what it felt like. I started skipping school at this time. I was in middle school. If I were to go to school, I'd take the bus and then I would go find my friends. We would venture off to parks or do whatever, go and use. And then I was trying to work my way through life like that. And it wasn't good. When I was in 8th grade, that's when I knew that I started to have a problem. Weed wasn't enough. I started to drink. My biggest night, and that was the biggest reality check then and still that I carry with now. I had taken 13 shots of vodka in 13 minutes. Somebody made a bet with me that I couldn't do it. And the rebellious and prideful person that I was, I made sure to take the 13 shots of vodka in 13 minutes. My sister found me at my house. My older sister found me. She brought me into the hospital. My alcohol level was like 0.29 or something like that. Woke up the next day not really understanding what had happened, but at that point it still wasn't enough for me to hit rock bottom. I still continued to use smoking weed and drinking as much as I could. Ninth grade came around. I was still just so addicted to whatever I could get my hands on. I had found over-the-counter medications at my house in my bathroom, just what I now have in my house as an adult, and everybody else too. I took whatever pills I could find at that time. I overdosed in my bathroom. My mom had found me. I had locked the door and I couldn't get out of the bathroom. Somehow she got into the bathroom anyways. That was eye-opening. A few days later, I ended up being checked into treatment. So my first time going into treatment, I was in ninth grade. Struggled a lot with that. I missed my freshman year that I should be experiencing, and it was all because I was spiraling out of control, wanting a high, wanting to numb the pain of whatever it was that I was feeling, whether it was a legit mental health diagnosis or I was just going into a depression because of my use. I'm not sure which one it is. So I went through treatment. That was in 2014. So going into treatment at a young age like that, especially 15 years ago, it's definitely frowned upon. I remember coming back to school and the judgment that I was receiving, not even just from kids and peers, from teachers and from staff. There were some people in my life, though, some adults at that time that really spoke life into me. They chose to love me and they brought hope into my life. They believed in me when I couldn't even believe in myself. I know that for a fact it was those people that helped me get through some of those years afterwards. I remember staying sober for just a minimal amount of time, maybe like a month or two. But again, I was faced with peer pressure, not even peer pressure, but I was putting myself in situations that I didn't need to put myself in, but I never understood that I was doing that. I always thought it was other people. I continued to try and play sports. I played basketball in high school. Before I went in high school, I was like a runner, cross country, track, really good at what I was doing. But unfortunately, it was the drugs and the alcohol that took everything away from me. I continued to play rugby, and I was able to continue to play rugby throughout my whole entire high school life because rugby was not a school sport, it's a community ed sport. So they couldn't kick me out of rugby, whether I had minor consumptions or whether I was using drugs or going to treatments because it was a community ed sport. But that is something that I held on to as an outlet, whether or not I was doing the right thing. I never had that taken away from me like I had basketball and other sports taken away. After my freshman year of going through treatment and trying to get my life together, I still couldn't. I was struggling. I surrounded myself with a lot of people who used drugs, but at the same time, I also had a lot of positive people in my life. People who have never even used drugs up to this day, people who haven't even drank up to this day. But I was choosing surround the ones who were using. These people that were sober and that never used, they loved me through it. It's just that at that time I wasn't loving myself, so I didn't know which group to be with or who to confide in. Started to drink more, started to get into different drugs as I was going through school. I know that when I was it got to the point when I was in 11th grade, things were spiraling like faster than what I could keep up with. And, I told my mom one night, I was like, Mom, I need help. And that was the first time that I had admitted it, that I needed help myself and I wasn't being forced to do something. I was in and out of AA and NA meetings ever since I've been 13 years old, I think. And I kept going back to those places. They were safe. But at the same time, I was 13 years old, 13, 14, 15, with all of adults, people who are in AA and NA. They understand it's rare that you see people like that. But those were the ones that held on to me the tightest, forgave me and loved me even when I would go back out and use. And I'd get a 30-day coin, whatever it was. And at day 31, I would be like, I made it to 30 days. I can use again. I'm healed. I can control this. And we all know that that's a lie. So after I went through my treatment in like 11th or 12th grade, again, stayed sober for probably 2 or 3 months. And then I started using again. I started getting into things that I could hide more from my family and from my friends. More of snorting things than smoking it, because if you snort it, they can't smell it. I thought that I was being secretive about it, but I wasn't. I got through high school. I barely got through high school. I'm going to say it's those teachers and the staff that really pushed for me to graduate, to give me that hope, to get me through school. I definitely didn't deserve it, and I did not work hard for it. I don't know, though, if they just wanted me out of the school and they graduated me so that they didn't have to deal with me anymore, because I was not the greatest kid. For those who know me, they know, I was defiant, but I was defiant because I didn't know how else to seek for that positive attention or attention at all, because I was so lost within my addiction. After high school, I moved up to St. Cloud. I went to St. Cloud Tech, and I lived on St. Cloud State's property in their dorms. Went up there with my best friend, and loved it. Loved being up in St. Cloud. Started to go to school for law enforcement. I wanted to follow my mom's footsteps and then my sister's footsteps. But when I went up to St. Cloud, I then had no rules, no adults, because obviously at 18 and in college, you're not an adult still. I started playing basketball up there. I was able to just walk into the school, walk on the team. That's what got me through my first few months of being at school. I only made it through one semester, and then I couldn't keep my grades up because I was partying too much, using more drugs, drinking a lot more, obviously. So I didn't have the right GPA. So there was no reason for me to stay up at school. I left for a semester and I moved home, and then I was like, I'll go back one more time to St. Cloud, and I'm going to get it this time. I'm going to be able to get through school. I'm going to play basketball. I'm going to stay sober. I'm not going to go down the same path I just did. But obviously, other addicts and alcoholics know that if you don't address the problem, that's not the truth. So went back to St. Cloud, tried it one more time, far down in a dark hole. I couldn't, I didn't even go to class. There was no reason for me to even be paying for college. I wasn't attending. The only time I ever set foot on campus was to go to basketball practice or go to our games. I was just spinning so fast down a dark slope. I remember I was talking to my high school rugby coach, and she knew I needed help. I probably said that I needed help. I was starting to hit a rock bottom. My family, obviously wasn't happy with me, between the amount of lies that I said to them, to other people in my life, the things that I stole, the stories that I couldn't keep straight, like what every drug addict and alcoholic deals with. They were losing faith in me, and like, oh, Tiffany's calling again. What kind of trouble is she getting into? Not terrible legal trouble, didn't struggle too much with that. I have quite a few minor consumptions, probably like 7 or 8 bottle tickets. I just had fun, and unfortunately, I got caught having fun. That's about it. I was never did any like jail time or anything like that. Anyways, my last semester that I ended up being at St. Cloud, my rugby coach was the one who got me into treatment. I was just like, this is it. I need help. She drove me to New Beginnings in Waverly, Minnesota. And there I did a 30-day inpatient treatment program, and it was life-changing. The staff there, some of them are what have spoke life into me and saved my life. So I went through that program, started to accept the fact that I was 19 years old and I was an addict and an alcoholic. It was really hard to grasp that because I wasn't like a normal kid. I always just thought that something was wrong with me, which wasn't the truth. I left treatment, and the day that I stepped out of treatment, I promised myself as soon as I was picked up by one of my friends who grabbed me that I would go through my entire phone and I would delete every single person's phone number in my phone that was not sober or that were dealing drugs or who I was using with. My friends. Like, we all say that they were friends, but they're not. They're using buddies. That's really what got to me. I had no way after that when I was home to communicate with anybody. Facebook and like social media, it wasn't as big as it is now. So not everybody was there. I couldn't find anybody. Even if I wanted to connect with somebody, I really couldn't. I didn't have a number anymore. So it was the best thing that probably saved me at that time. At 6 months clean, I ended up getting pregnant. So I have a 10-year-old daughter now. Her name is Addison. And found out I was pregnant. That was also life-changing for me. Went through the last 10 years of being a single parent. But it's okay. She is what has saved me now. We talk about, do kids really need us as much as we need them? If it wasn't for her, I'm not sure where I would be today. So I had Addison when I was 21. I was pregnant on my 21st birthday, which was probably a blessing in disguise. I drank some pop and ate some food. I didn't go out and make bad decisions that night. Went through my early 20s being sober and being a mom, obviously raising my daughter. I ended up staying clean from the altering substances like pills and drugs for 7 years. In 2016, I ended up getting a back injury at work. I look back now knowing that back injury is what ultimately took my life a few times. Obviously, I was at the right place at the right time. People saved my life from there. But for my back injury, that's when the addiction with pills started. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I can take these narcotics. I can take any painkillers, anything you put my way, because I was never addicted to pain pills. I was addicted to drugs. I was addicted to cocaine, weed, whatever it was. And I was like, I can handle these pills. It was a slippery slope really quick. Pretty significant injury. All the doctors and providers that I saw from that, every single one of them said that I was too young for back surgery. That they didn't think that it would benefit me in any way. Unfortunately, they just continued to try to put a Band-Aid on that injury by filling more and more prescription pills for me. It's not a provider's fault that I ended up being addicted to pills, because it was my choice to put those pills into my mouth. So as I go on in the story, like, I won't ever blame anybody else. But it was a dark cycle. I would run out of one medication and I'd be like, I'm out of this. I need another one. Okay, how many do you want? Things were filled. I couldn't get myself off of them when I would try to come off of them, and they would put me on a medication for withdrawing, and then they would put me on a benzo for, my shakes and my anxiety and whatever it was. It just, one thing led to another. I was functioning as an adult, but also deep into an addiction. I was pretty secretive about that. People who were close to me, they knew that I was struggling, but I put on a pretty good show when I went out in public. It never affected my professional life. I take that back. It started to go down a bad hill when I got further into my addiction. But in the beginning, with my pills, it was fine. I wouldn't take them when I was going into work. Obviously, I would never work being altered, and I would never take them at night if I had to wake up early the next day. But after so long, you can only hide that, and then you need more pills to not feel the pain. I was starting to take more because I was embarrassed of what I was doing, and I couldn't talk to anybody. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't know what kind of judgment I would get. I was having a hard time living with myself, that I was a single mom, that I had a child at home, and I was addicted to pills, and I was choosing pills over her, and I was choosing pills over my family and my friends. So I continued to cover it up. It's just like when you're an alcoholic, you continue to drink because you want to cover up that pain. Like, we don't choose to be addicts and alcoholics for fun. We're trying to hide something to numb our pain. So that's what I continue to do. I spent many days in hospitals, woke up many times in hospitals. I was working in a hospital at the time, and I put many of my coworkers in bad spots. I'd show up after having taken too many pills, overdosing, not intentionally all the time. Maybe at that time I thought I was intentionally doing it, but I think I was just so out of control, I had no idea. Providers that I'd worked with on a professional basis, I was putting them in bad spots. I remember one morning, it was a Sunday morning, and this was after dozens of hospitalizations and continuing to let people down. And I didn't know what else to do. I decided that I was going to take a bottle of pills that I had, and I was going to show up at church. Not sure why they go together, but I was like, maybe God will save my life. And that's actually what happened. I went into church like 20 minutes later thinking that I'm going to be fine. I'm going to listen to this message. I'm going to change my life after this. I walked in and I sat down next to a few of my good friends. And I just started sobbing, and we had a conversation. I told them what was going on, that I needed help. They took me out of church. They drove me up to the hospital. They never left me. They stayed by my side. I have so many people in my life who have done that for me, who have forgiven me, even though I was being a terrible person and making those decisions. I thought that was it. I stayed in the hospital, tried to get some help. A few days later, I was back at it, using again, trying to find different ways to get my next high. Life quickly started going downhill even worse, where I truly hit my rock bottom. I was a destructive tornado, not just in my life. I was just ruining things everywhere, with the relationships that I had with people's lives. I couldn't keep up with my lies. I couldn't keep up with who I was with, or where I was at, or why am I spending that money? Why are you making these decisions? I finally got to a place where I just tuned everybody out, and I was only living for myself. I wasn't seeing anybody else. That's when I hit my rock bottom. I was only wanting to cover my pain, and to hurt myself and nobody else. But again, it's because I was struggling with how far gone I was in an addiction, and I wasn't able to keep up on my daily life then. Um, my one of my last overdose that I had. I think I got out of the hospital on the Monday. I called my therapist, and I asked to come in for an appointment. I went in and saw her for an appointment, and that's actually when I knew um, my life was out of control with my using. She was like, Tiffany, I cannot continue to see you. You are in therapy every week, but every week you still decide to overdose. I am no longer providing you help and support. This is not healthy anymore. When you can get your life together, please come back. But right now, you walking out of here and choosing to use as soon as you leave my office, ultimately it was some pretty good tough love.
Mm-hmm.
I was so mad. I remember walking out, and I went to my doctor's office and sat down, and I was obviously a puddle. And I was like, "Listen, my therapist just cut me off. Um, what what do I do?" And he was like, "I agree with her. Same. We can no longer help you. Uh, you've had too many chances. We've tried to help you, and I was just continuing to use pills and numb everything. So same thing. He's like, I support her and what she's saying. We're here if you want the help, but I cannot give you the services that you're looking for." And he told me to consider going to treatment. Um, that night, I remember sitting downstairs in my living room, and it was uh, one of the worst feelings in the world. The loneliness, not knowing who to turn to, because I'd already burned all of those bridges with people from the choices that I was making, and the words that I had spoke to people. I felt like nobody believed in me, even that if I went to ask somebody for help, that they'd just be like, "You're crying wolf again." Um, I wanted help so bad. Uh, I knew if I stayed in Hastings or if I stayed close somewhere in Minnesota, that I would have um, too many people and distractions. People wanting to come visit. Obviously, I've been in and out of the treatment facilities. I knew how it works. So I was like, I need to find somewhere where I can go far away that I'll be by myself. I ended up Googling Christian treatment facilities in the United States. And the number 2 Christian treatment facility that popped up was a place called New Life Spirit Recovery Center, and that's in Huntington Beach, California. I had called and I left a voicemail, and I was like, I need help. I don't remember the exact words. They called me back, and I figured, like it is with every other treatment center, that I would be put on a wait list. Most places don't have beds. Most places you have to do your Rule 25s. This lady, she called me back, and she's like, "No, we can take you." And I said, "How long is the wait?" And she's like, "We have a bed for you today." And it was probably 10 o'clock at night at that time. And I was like, well, I can't come out there today. The hard thing that I struggled with was that it's in California, outside of Minnesota. They don't accept insurance out there for that. So they're like, this is the price, which is pretty spendy. If you're involved in any treatment stuff, tens of thousands of dollars. So that was another barrier. I said, all right, I'll accept the bed. I need a day or two to figure out what I'm going to do with my child, how I'm going to pay for it. The next day I ended up calling a friend and telling her that I got accepted into treatment, that I needed help, and I needed her advice on to how to get the right assistance to pay for it. She said, don't worry about the flights. Tell me when you want to go. Tell me what flight you want to get on. Send me the link. I'll put it on my credit card. $400 flights to go to treatment were paid for. I told my mom the next day, like, hey, Mom, I got to go. This is what's happening. She was supportive. My family was supportive. She took my daughter for me. The way that I got through treatment, though, to pay for it, I ended up walking into a bank in town. I had no idea if I'd even get a loan. Like, I was just this drug addict that made minimal amounts of money and had no credit. And the lady that, the bank teller that was helping me, I was like, I need to get a loan for this amount of money. And she looked at me and she's like, yeah, okay. Can I ask why? Like personal loan, whatever it is. And I just remember looking at her in the eyes and I couldn't even hold my tears in. And I was like, I am struggling to stay sober. I need to go to treatment and get help. And it was a pretty good cry fest right there in the bank lobby. She was wearing this bracelet and it said, hold on, pain ends. So which stands for hope. I obviously don't need to get into that story, but she's like, this bracelet is for you. She's like, this divine appointment was meant to happen. I want you to hold on because the pain does end. And right there, I knew exactly that I was making the right decision. All of the second guessing that I was doing, like, is it worth it? Am I just going to go out and get addicted to something else? Got the loan, hopped on a plane a few hours later, flew out to California. That was eye-opening for me. I knew at that point that I wanted to get sober and stay sober away from the pills and what was bringing me down. Not only because of like my mental health and how terrible of a person I was being at that time, but I am still to this day paying thousands of dollars back for a treatment facility. Like, it was pretty eye-opening, the amount of money that I was putting into it. But I was like, this is it. If I'm taking out this kind of money, I need to continue to stay sober. Went through their program out there, and I never realized how hurt I was. That was my eye-opening moment in life. I was holding on to so much resentment towards people who had done me wrong in life or who I thought had done me wrong in life. Holding on to resentment and anger and hurt from people and places and things that truly wasn't even hurting me. It was more of like a mind game. So what happened when I was on treatment, I worked on the root issue of why I was using. If I was using to cover up the pain between you and me, if we had a bad issue, like, I had to start forgiving you and I had to start forgiving the people in my life, my mom, my dad, my sisters, my friends, my daughter, whatever it is. And that's when I started to feel freedom and to walk in that freedom. A lot of weight was starting to be lifted off my shoulders. So it wasn't just that, it's this brain chemistry and I'm at it. It was a lot of hurt that I was holding on to, and the weight that was on my shoulders for years, 27 years to be exact. I think I was maybe 27 when I went out there. But holding on to that, and I was realizing how big my walls were all around me. They were made of steel. There was no letting anybody in because I didn't trust anybody. So I was resorting to using pills and covering things up because I thought that I was all alone. Well, at the end of the day, I wasn't alone. I just wasn't using the right tools and skills that I had given to my life to cope with that kind of stuff. So it was one of my biggest learning moments. At that point, I started to be able to identify triggers, fights with people, like verbal fights or disagreements in life, whether that's professional or personal. And that every single time that I disagreed with somebody, I didn't have to go out and use because I was so mad at them. Like, yeah, it's okay for us to disagree. We're two different people. But then also starting to forgive myself. Besides forgiving myself, it was forgiving others, whether they were sorry or not. If I continued to hold on to that like, oh, you didn't say you were sorry to me, that was what was eating me alive. So I just had to start forgiving people, whether or not they spoke the words that they were sorry, or even if they never talked to me again. I have people in my life that will never speak to me again because of what I've done to them. But it's okay. Like, it was my choice. I forgive them for ways that I thought that they did me wrong, but now I'm starting to forgive myself too for treating them poorly. So just learning to be in the right mindset, and to know that not everybody is coming after me. It's not all bad things towards me. Um, Anyways, I came home from treatment, a totally different person, and obviously a few years older from my last treatment, and it stuck with me. I knew that I again had to change my life one more time. Besides the first treatment facility when I was 19 that I left, I had to start surrounding myself with supportive people. I had to be vulnerable in order for me to stay clean, and to have the support and the help on the days that I was struggling. Um, More of just having like accountability people, safety nets, um, people who would be there when needed, um, and speaking words of life to me, and not belittling me because of my past and because of the terrible decisions that I have made. So that was one of the biggest things. Up until I went to my last treatment, I could never finish school. Obviously, I was um, a single mom, but then I was so far gone in my addiction. I couldn't attend classes because I would rather use and just work and make money than do my schooling. It had always been my dream to graduate with a law enforcement degree, to be a police officer. Um, I wasn't able to do any of that until that last time I got clean. Didn't even pass high school or any of my college classes with a 2.0 GPA when I came home and started to get my life on the right path and being healthy again and in a mindset that I needed to be in. I was able to knock out all of my college classes. I finally graduated with my law enforcement degree. I was successful at being a parent, obviously loving my kid the way that she needed to be loved, and not abandoning her, and um, I was able to get my dream job. Um, I thought that I was always too far gone to be able to be successful. That people would, look at me in a negative way, especially with like the work that I'm in. But I choose to continue to now push for that, and to have people see the side of hope. Um, if I can get to where I'm at now from where I was in the beginning, anybody can. It's one of the hardest things to realize that like it's second by second, minute by minute, day by day, month by month. Oftentimes, I know that we look at recovery and sobriety, like I can't stay sober the rest of my life, and I agree. I can't stay clean the rest of my life, but I can stay clean right now, and I can stay clean today, and then I'm going to try again tomorrow. Um, my biggest thing is taking every day, minute by minute. I still have terrible days. I am 3.5 years clean. So August 2017 was when I went into treatment. 3.5 years clean. It gets easier dealing with the bumps in the road and the bad days. My mind doesn't always just go to like, all right, I can escape reality and I don't have to deal with any of this BS if I go and use right now. I can shut my brain off. I can go to sleep, whatever it is. But I don't want to live like that. I remember being miserable, and it's just been a minute by minute, and on those bad days I have to keep reminding myself of where I was, and I never want to be there again, to where I am now. The successes, they outweigh the minutes of high that I think that I'll get. But that's one of the biggest things. People are like, I can't do it. I can't stay clean forever. You don't have to stay clean forever, as long as you choose to stay clean today. And I mean, day 1 and day 30, they're still pretty hard. Day 30, you've just made it 30 days clean, but now you got to hit the road and you got to run with it, you know. But I wouldn't say that it's going to be perfect the rest of my life, but I know that I've been working pretty hard at it. And as long as I keep with my mindset and being vulnerable, I write a lot. People who follow me on social media, I write a lot to get that out of me, but I also write for people to see that, like, yes, we go through bad days just like everybody else does, and that there is hope. And that's one of the biggest things I've held on to. Also, working out. Ironically, when I came home from treatment, I got wind of a gym in Hastings. It's actually in the basement of a church, and I wasn't financially stable, so I couldn't pay for a gym membership at the time, and I was able to get into this gym at the same time of working out and getting in physical shape. It was one of my biggest mental and emotional ways to relieve what I was feeling inside. Still to this day, now I work out there. The life that has been spoken into me there, and what I can speak into others and share too. I mean, it's huge. If anybody were to come to me and say, what do I need to do for myself as I'm starting my sobriety, or even 20 years into sobriety now, is having those healthy outlets and the people that are surrounding them. You know, people say, like, if you're an alcoholic and you keep going into bars and ordering water, eventually you're going to get a beer, right? Like, we can't keep putting ourselves in those negative environments. So it's just changing who you're with and how you're presenting yourself. And yeah.
Definitely. You're a rock star. Straight
Thanks.
up. Straight up. I mean, I love what I'm doing because I get to sit here and I get to hear inspiration that I had no idea was going to come out of you. Like, I'm not kidding. Your story is one of the most powerful stories I've ever heard. I am not kidding. You, your story, man, your willingness to
Yeah,
to get sober,
for sure.
your willingness, man, that willingness that you did, that you took a loan out to get sober.
Right. And people who go to treatment, they know that it's, you know, it's not just a few $100s.
Right.
It's those yearly salaries. So, but I kept promising God, if He got me out of that dark hole, I said I would do whatever it was. And I still remember these conversations like we all have on our last days of our last uses. And here He is. He's put me on a solid foundation and solid ground. And
Just blessed you for your
absolutely,
willingness. That's what God does. Man, I mean, you to do to do what you've done, right? You've beat the odds.
yeah,
The odds, Tiff, have been stacked up against you ever since you were a young girl.
right,
Started using. They were all in your head though,
yeah,
right? They were
yeah,
all in your head until you switched that mindset up, right? And some of the key stuff you said, there is freedom in forgiveness.
yeah,
There's so much freedom in forgiveness. That was some of the that was a point that I definitely wanted to mention. I got all kinds of stuff written down from your story. Um, one of the things I wrote down was, I already said it. It's the one of the most powerful stories that I've ever heard because of your willingness. Man, I've never heard someone that has been more willing. As a guy like me who works with other addicts and alcoholics trying to stay sober,
Right.
man,
Yeah.
I thought I was willing. I never paid $1 for any of the treatments that I was in. I wasn't as willing as you. You know what I mean? I'm going to keep it real,
Absolutely.
straight up. That I've never heard that before, and that is something that I needed to hear tonight because that's very humbling. Something else that stood out to me when you went into that church with your friends might not have been your last day using. Your friends were next to you. I
Yeah.
could feel the emotion coming off you talking. I'm not kidding. I could feel it, and I got emotional as well over here because I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
It might be just more of like the embarrassing part of it, or like feeling the shame. I mean, or it's fine. I'm forgiven, and the pastor and everybody there knows, but
Yep.
like, why is a drug addict taking pills, walking into a church to hear a Sunday morning service, and it was um, God's plan. And that's one of the times that my life was saved from them. I mean, multiple times, and multiple people have, but
God has had a plan for your life from the very start.
absolutely. And that's what drives me to stay in my career that I'm in right now. Oftentimes with drug addicts and alcoholics, when you see them in hospitals, you see them on the streets or TV shows, whatever it is, and you're just like, it's just another alcoholic, just another addict. Well, they are that way for a reason, not just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
They're hiding something, they're covering something up, they're trying to numb something. So it's now, how can I be a better person within my job? Um, person, or even to be the one person to tell them that I believe in them, because most people don't. And I've learned from many hospital beds, many doctors, many nurses, whoever it is, like it just took that one provider to be like, I believe in you, Tiff.
Oh my goodness. You just every time you bring up more stuff that I want because the doctor, your psychologist or your therapist told you beat it. You
Yeah.
don't you're not ready.
We can laugh about it, and I do, but at the time I was like, what is going on?
Right? I mean, exactly. That's how it was for me when the judge told me it's time to go to the joint.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I'm an addict. I need treatment. What do you mean? I relapsed. I was mad at him. Looking back, he saved my life.
Yeah.
That judge saved my life that day.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. That's how I look at it. Um, man, so much hope. A lot of the just from what you said, I'm gonna repeat a word that you said quite a bit. Someone spoke life into me.
Yeah.
Someone spoke hope into me. Someone encouraged me.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. That's exactly why we're here. And you're doing now what they did for you. And that's what other people did for me too, right? Somehow, some way, we got to have somebody giving us some kind of support,
Right.
right?
Believe in ourselves,
Yeah,
usually,
because sometimes we can't believe in ourselves.
but it's not because we don't, because we were so far gone in our addiction that you can't see clear. You can only see within yourself. Like, yes, it's a selfish thing to do, but being an addict and alcoholic, you are selfish, and that's why you're drinking and using.
Right. Yeah, there what I've learned is there was a void.
Yeah.
And I filled my void with meth and alcohol. You filled your void with whatever else you filled your void with, right? But until we filled our void with spirituality and good, positive things, like we're searching for, a creator, or there's a void there. I fill mine with faith and life and hope and inspire. You know what I mean? That's really what it is. There's a void, and we keep putting into that void, and we keep putting the wrong stuff in, and that void just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And until we start to put hope and love in that void, we it's like a lot of the stuff we're taught are survival skills.
Absolutely.
As addicts, it's how we survive. It's our defense mechanisms. It's our
Lie.
walls. We lie to ourselves to not feel bad.
Oh,
We minimize.
yeah.
We do it all.
things like if anybody can walk away, and every time that I have this conversation with somebody, even if it's a family member, is to love that person in your life who is an addict or an alcoholic, and to know that they're not selfishly trying to hurt the rest of the people around them. But if they aren't in our shoes, they don't understand. Most people don't want to destroy the people around them. They just want to hurt themselves and don't really know that it's a spiral, a domino effect.
Right. Exactly. I didn't know it for years what I was doing. Right. I didn't. I was a piece. I was a straight up piece. And, um, the things I did directly, I kind of knew. Right. Direct, I knew. But the things I was doing indirectly with what I was doing with selling drugs and you know what I mean, selling methamphetamine, what I was doing was definitely polluting, and it was so deeper. It's so much deeper than I saw. And until I seen it for what it was, I never would have changed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
it's eye-opening.
Right, I was a piece of shit. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The things I did, I was a piece of junk. I really was. I made a lot of mistakes. I hurt a lot of people. I lived a selfish life.
And here we are, Phil. Like, we made it. We did it.
Right. Exactly. And today, I don't have to do that stuff.
Right.
We one day at a time. It's been a while. You know what I mean? And now we're here spreading hope to the hopeless on Against the Odds with you as my guest. Who would have thought?
Would have thought 15, 20 years ago of us kids that were on the streets are here.
You just never know, man. You just never know where God is going to open the doors for us. And that's why I never put any kind of stamp or roadmap on my life anymore. Like, I don't know where God's going to take me these days. I don't. I'm just going to keep being willing to do what I think he wants me to do.
Absolutely.
And that's help people and help people digitally through here and bring people on here and listen to their stories and help the individual, help break the stigma that is involved with addiction, right? We need to break that stigma. You talked about that stigma a lot. You did. And that's a stigma that's real, right? And that's a stigma that I feel with my past today. Sometimes I get, there's a stigma, right? It can, not every day I'm all bubbly and motivational. Keeping it real. We all have our ups and downs. It's one day at a time. I've been doing it one day at a time since October 5th or October 15th, 2010. So, I mean, it's like, it gets easier, but the days,
still bad days, but it gets easier.
There's still bad days, but we get through them and we start to learn that it's just temporary. The feelings that we get, they go away. And especially if we be vulnerable and open ourselves up and ask for advice. And that's one thing I want to say while we're on here and I have you on here.
Right.
Is that if anyone's out there struggling tonight, somebody's out there struggling. I know it. I get messages all the time.
Same.
If anyone's out there struggling, if you're a male, hit me up. If you're a female, send Tiffany a message on Facebook. We want to help other people with our stories. If I can't work directly with you, or if Tiffany can't work directly with you, we know people that will work with you and help you and support you. Because like Tiffany said, she had a support network that helped her ever since she was 11 years old. God had a plan for your life. He put these people in your life and they spoke life into you. There's someone in your life today that speaks life into you too.
Every day.
Yes. There's someone out there today that definitely needed to hear your story. I know this. And that's why we go live every Saturday night and I don't take days off. I'll be going live from Florida on my vacation because I don't want to take that day off because I know that someone might need to hear something on a Saturday night at 8 p.m. because I know how weekends are in recovery.
They're the hardest.
They can be. They can be if you're not there. yet. It can be a struggle, right? It can be a struggle, but when you got to get the hope, get the courage, and get the willingness to go out there and make difference. Because honestly, we don't sober up by sitting down and not doing nothing, right? Recovery is not a theory. We got to live it out every day.
Absolutely.
It's something that you have to practice, and it's like in the gym, right? When we practice or when we exercise something, what happens? We get results with consistency over time. That's where the one day at a time comes in. Just do it one day at a time. Don't think too far ahead, and let's just keep going.
Yeah, I agree.
So we definitely have a lot of comments. You were getting a lot of comments when you were getting a lot of comments when you were going. Your story, like I said, was one of the most. You almost had me in tears at the just because I know the feeling. I just know the feelings. You know, when you can relate with someone and you can almost feel that, I can get emotional, and that's that can be. I thought it was a curse, but it's a blessing. It
It
really. I like it, and I'm okay with it.
makes you human.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. But you know me, I like to be Billy tough, tough guy all the time. And that's one of the things that recovery has taught me to be vulnerable. And I don't have to be tough all the time. I can be weak because I don't like doing that. You know what I
I
mean?
realize that now that I don't cover up my feelings and emotions, I have so many more, and I actually can't stand it. Like, why am I crying? But
I know.
yeah,
So I'm looking through the comments. What I'm gonna advise you to do when we're done with the live is just go through the comments because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of comments. We had a lot of people on tonight supporting you, encouraging you, telling you how much of a good job you did, thanking you. See, I can put a couple comments on the screen.
yeah, I see him now.
That's Shalina. Kenda's watching from Canada.
Hey,
She'll be on Against the Odds soon.
awesome! Can't wait
Yep.
to.
Then we have a friend of mine, Dave Johnson. He's in the trenches. He works with people in addiction. He helps people. He spreads hope to the hopeless. He's been doing it for a very long time. He looks like Santa Claus. He's a blessing to children, to addicts. He's just a great guy. He is. He's a great guy, and he did have a bigger comment. He said, "Good job." Pulled up the wrong one. Sorry about that. Brian Larson said, "Wonderful testimony." We have a congratulations on 3.5 years. That's amazing. You know what? There was someone watching, and I don't know if she's watching, but I'm gonna put her comment up because she's celebrating some recovery today, isn't she?
Yeah, I think Casey's on 7 years of sobriety. Is
7 years of sobriety.
and we used
Thank
to
you, Casey.
her.
So I wanted to pull that up. I don't know if she's watching, but congratulations, Casey.
Yeah, congrats, Casey. That's awesome.
It's huge. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being a light to people in recovery. Because
Absolutely.
when we stay in recovery,
Takes
that's
a village.
what we can be. We
Yeah.
can be a light, right?
Absolutely.
Do you want to say anything before you leave? Would you like to say any last words, and then we'll go ahead and close this out. We're running on an hour. I think we did a great job.
I have a lot of words, a lot of things to say, but that they I don't have enough time. My biggest thing, again, like what I had already said, people who are either watching or who you interact with, listening, whatever it is, that have somebody in their life who is an addict or an alcoholic, you need to love them hard and continue to speak life into them because they're in their position and choosing to numb the pain for a reason, and they can't see any further than their choices that they're making. And anybody who's struggling, I can't tell you, and I won't ever boost my ego about the amount of people who reach out to me. it doesn't matter your profession or where you stand in life, how much money you have, how much money you don't have. It's okay to ask for help. Like I can tell you, some of the people that have reached out to me make tons of money. I have people that reach out to me that make no money. Um, it's okay. It's okay to struggle, and it's okay to ask for help. You don't need to be as open as I am or as Phil is, anybody else who is public about their addictions. But there's hope for you. There's help, and you don't have to do it alone. I may not always have the answers, but again, just like you said, Phil, I can direct people and get them to the right places. I have a lot of connections to treatment facilities, legal resources. I can get people into treatment centers pretty quick because of where I have been and where I'm at in my life. So just keep fighting the fight. And if it's your day one, keep going. It's worth it. You can get to 3.5 years. You can get to 30 days. So
Right on. Well, I want to personally thank you for coming on to Against the Odds and being vulnerable and sharing your story and your hope with all of us. It is truly always an honor to hear anyone's story out of the depths, but your story touched me very much so because of our backgrounds and our past. Um, your story was just so powerful and such a blessing to many. And I hope that someone out there reaches out to you because I know that there are people out there struggling, and you know that too.
yeah,
Um, Thank you so much for coming on. Everybody's thanking you right now on the comments. I'll remove you from the live, and then you can go and reply to comments and
awesome.
talk to people. Um, I appreciate you. We
Yeah,
will do this again if you would like to. I'd love to have you on. I think we had a good live, and we had a good vibe, and it was very spiritual, and that's what we're going for here.
all right. Thanks, Phil.
Yep, have a good one. Well, everybody, we had another amazing Saturday night. Tiffany killed it. She did. She told her story of hope and inspiration, and I was sitting over here and I thought she was telling my story, and we come from two different walks of life. You know what I mean? And that is how recovery works, right? Like Tiffany said, it doesn't matter if a guy has $1 million or a guy has no dollars. We all suffer and we all need help. Addiction does not discriminate. It definitely doesn't discriminate. I wanted to definitely thank you guys for coming on to Against the Odds tonight on Saturday Night Live, as we always are on Saturday nights at 8 p.m. We go live and we share hope to the hopeless. I know you guys shared this live on your page, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for 2,300 Facebook likes. I also want to thank you for the reach that we're able to get on this page. Because as you can see, we have hope on this page, and we are trying to get this hope to people that need it, right? Tonight, if you're struggling, reach out to one of us. Send us a message. There is hope for you. Tiffany is living proof. There's tons of people on this page in the comments on this video. There's tons of people in recovery that are willing to support you. Tiffany has accesses to treatment centers and resources, and so do I. We have access to recovery support and recovery resources. Please hit us up if you need help. You don't have to do this alone. Trust me, it's not easy to do it alone. I wasn't able to do it alone. I needed help. Tiffany, she wasn't able to do it alone either. She needed help. So hopefully you guys have a great night. First of all, almost lost my train of thought. Hopefully you guys reach out if you are struggling, because honestly, my inbox is always open. I reply to people. I try my best to reply if you send a message to Against the Odds. And I try to give you support and resources if you need it. I hope you guys all have a great Saturday night. I heard there's some UFC fights going on tonight. You guys, hopefully you catch those. Have a good weekend. Thank you for tuning in to Against the Odds Saturday Night Live. Peace.